Welcome back. Corporate social responsibility is not only about philanthropy and kind gestures. Well, they're part of CSR, but there are standards that should be adhered to in line with international best practice. That's according to the president of the International Network for Corporate Social Responsibility, Mr. Eustace Onuegbu. Here's my conversation with him. When CSR is mentioned, focus is mainly on the private sector. Why this perception, especially when we're talking about social impact?
Yes, CSR, because if you call it corporate social responsibility, so the impression people get is corporate. But then that's why organizations like International Organization for Standards, ISO, would use social responsibility instead of corporate social responsibility to make sure that every organization gets to understand that includes every organization. As far as you have interaction with these stakeholders, and with other players, with the three pillars of corporate social responsibility, environment, social, and economy, then you have to be CSR compliant. So if you're not paying a living wage, for instance, whether it's an agency of the government, for instance, or whether it's an NGO, or whether it's a private sector organization, does it really matter? You have to really be CSR compliant. If you are not disposing your waste in a very responsible manner. So it doesn't matter whether it's a private organization or public organization. So it applies to all organizations. However, the words corporate social responsibility have become a lot more popular, so that people think it's only applicable to private sector organizations. No, it applies to every organization.
At the moment, CSR is non-obligatory in Nigeria, unlike in countries like India where it is regulated. Do you see things changing someday such that it ceases to be a voluntary practice?
I think so. There's been 2 bills already that have been introduced, that were introduced to the National Assembly. But then, before that happens, I believe that the understanding of CSR must have changed, because at that time, private sector organizations thought it was going to be an additional bill, an additional tax, sorry, to their organizations, to their companies, right? When it is defined from that angle, from that perspective, then they would not want to accept that. They would lobby against it. However, if they understand that it's actually a benefit to their business, because they are proactively avoiding risks, then they will accept it. They will not lobby against it, and then it will become a law in Nigeria.
Are the concerns of the private companies not genuine? Come to think of it, this is a bill that, if approved, would mandate them to pay 3.5% of their profits before tax.
They are supposed to give something back to social. They're supposed to give back something back to the key stakeholders, the host communities, the workers, the society, the environment, from whom they have taken a lot. Because for them to operate their businesses, they must have taken a lot from these different stakeholders. So what I'm saying is that, yes, they should give back something. Is it double taxation? I don't think so. Is it high? I wouldn't be able to make that decision or judgment. But the most important thing is that before you even get to that, you must have implemented the corporate social responsibility principles within the organization and throughout your business relationships. So that would proactively serve you or reduce your risk exposure. Then the amount you give back to social will become, to me, irrelevant. And if you know that that is saving you costs, you'll be happy as an organization to give more than the 3.5. So I'm not going to get into the debate of the amount that should be given back, or whether it's going to be before tax or after tax. I know that India, for instance, the only organization in the world, the only country in the world that does have a similar law, has, I think, about 2% after tax. But they also have adapted or adopted the ISO 26000 social responsibility as a national standard. Therefore, it's not just for you to give back to social. You also need to, as an organization, need to meet the requirements, the global requirements of corporate social responsibility by implementing the standards.
Can you tell us what would be a big win for you in your CSR advocacy in Nigeria?
That CSR that we're able to pass a CSR bill, make CSR law in Nigeria. And when I say CSR, I mean CSR. I'm not talking about philanthropy. I'm talking about implementation of CSR principles based on a global standard, based on ISO 26000, just like India did. And I'm not talking about reporting. I'm talking about implementation and continual improvement. That makes companies, organizations responsible for their impacts, directly or indirectly, to the stakeholders.
On a final note, what is your assessment of CSR in Nigeria? Would you say organizations are doing enough? Are they investing enough in social impact in Nigeria?
I have to be honest with you. CSR is still evolving in Nigeria. We're not doing enough, but we are not doing so badly. A couple of years ago, when we started this journey, the definition itself was a problem. Quite a number of people wouldn't even want to understand that CSR involves more than philanthropy. As of today, I know quite a number of practitioners that we have in different fields, in the CSI field, that now get to understand and implement the global best practices. So we're getting there. With regards to the non-private sectors, the non-private sector, that's the public sector, and the civil society organizations, it is important that we get some level of education out there. We need to continue the advocacy, and this is maybe going too far, but I think that's what is required in Nigeria now, that we need to also introduce it to our formal education system, to the curriculum, especially at the university and secondary education level. It is important, especially from the point of view of sustainability, corporate sustainability. It is important that we start thinking in that direction at this point.
As you'd have seen in today's program, CSR is much more than kind gestures here and there. It's a crucial part of business sustainability. And that's our show. Thank you for watching. For more of the program, you can follow us on Twitter at CTV Kaleidoscope or send an email to kaleidoscope@channelstv.com. I'm Uche Aluku. As always, I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.